President-elect Donald Trump has made his first return to the White House since leaving office, meeting with President Joe Biden to discuss the transition of power. The former president continued to announce his cabinet picks after the visit. He's nominated Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz as his Attorney General. Gaetz, who worked briefly as a lawyer before entering politics, is notable for his strident loyalty to Mr. Trump. The former president has also announced 2016 rival Marco Rubio as his Secretary of State and former Democratic Representative Tulsi Gabbard as Director of National Intelligence in his new administration. Our North America correspondent Barbara Miller joins us from the White House. Barbara, what's the reaction been to these nominations?
Well, Matt Gaetz is certainly a surprise. His name wasn't being touted as Attorney General. If he is confirmed in that role, he would oversee the department that until last year was investigating him on possible sex trafficking offences. Now, no charges were ever brought and that investigation was dropped, but a House Ethics Committee, a bipartisan body, continues to investigate Matt Gaetz over alleged sexual offences and illicit drug use. He's also a fiery character. He often clashes with people within his own party, so it's certainly going to be interesting to see how his confirmation goes. But he is, as you say, fiercely loyal to Donald Trump, and it certainly looks like a number of these picks are rewarding those who are loyal to Donald Trump, including Tulsi Gabbard, who is a former Democratic congresswoman who in 2020 wanted to run for president herself. Joe Biden, of course, became the nominee for the Democrats. That would have put her up against Donald Trump had she been successful there. She has since become a MAGA Republican and is now a member of the Republican Party. Questions have been raised about her shifting positions. There were also questions about a meeting she had with the Syrian leader Bashar al-Assad and some comments she made there. So that's certainly another appointment raising eyebrows. That makes Marco Rubio possibly the least controversial of the names we've heard in recent hours. He, as expected, has been nominated by Donald Trump for the Secretary of State position. Again, someone who used to not get along with Donald Trump. He used to call Donald Trump names and vice versa. Donald Trump used to call him Little Marco, but has since become much more loyal to the president-elect. So certainly Donald Trump rolling out these names thick and fast now. The overriding, I guess, quality of these people appears, I guess, as you'd expect from what we'd come to know of Donald Trump, to be loyalty.
Yeah, indeed. And Barbara, in amidst all of this, Donald Trump and Joe Biden have met in the White House behind you. What was the atmosphere in that meeting?
Well, it was cordial. I mean, the media was only allowed in there for pretty much 30 seconds. At the top of that meeting in the Oval Office, Joe Biden congratulated Donald Trump on his victory and said, welcome back. And Joe Biden assured him that he'd ensure that the transition of power was smooth. Donald Trump acknowledged that politics could be a difficult, not very nice world to operate in, but seemed to be thanking Joe Biden by acknowledging that today was a nice day in the world of politics, because when Donald Trump was leaving the White House, he certainly didn't invite Joe Biden in for a transition meeting. Of course, at this time 4 years ago, Donald Trump was vehemently disputing the results of the election and only very grudgingly left the White House. We then heard, once the cameras were away, that the two men talked for around 2 hours. The White House said it was a substantive discussion. Both domestic and foreign policy issues were discussed. We know that Joe Biden wanted to raise with him his opinion, his strong opinion that the U.S. should continue to fund Ukraine, to send military aid to Ukraine. A number of these appointees, including Tulsi Gabbard, have been very vocal in speaking out against sending further aid to Ukraine. But it was a gracious, a cordial meeting, and yet nonetheless extraordinary to see Donald Trump back here preparing for his second term here at the White House.
And finally, Senate Republicans have picked a new majority leader, but it might not bring much joy to the Trump camp.
Well, in the initial phase, perhaps not. Some of the MAGA Republicans had been pushing Rick Scott of Florida for that position. This is the person to take over from Mitch McConnell, who's held that position as minority or majority leader in the Senate for a long time. John Thune won through as South Dakota senator. That's despite Elon Musk, who was in the room as Trump addressed House Republicans earlier. Elon Musk was pushing for Rick Scott. But John Thune has said, look, he looks forward to implementing Donald Trump's agenda. So while he may not have been the candidate of choice for some of those close to Donald Trump, he himself didn't express an opinion publicly, at least. There's certainly no indication that John Thune won't carry out Donald Trump's agenda. And of course, we'll see how loyal the Senate is to Donald Trump very soon when the Senate is asked to approve a bunch of these nominations that we're now hearing about. One thing, Dan, we haven't heard about yet is what happens to RFK Jr., who initially ran as a Democrat, then as an independent, then dropped out of the presidential race endorsing Donald Trump. He's expecting, from what he said publicly, a role in the health department of some kind, but no announcement yet on that. But things are happening so fast here in these days following the election that perhaps some kind of announcement there is not too far away.